Sometimes I would benefit from understanding my own power. Knowing your own power could really help sometimes, because I feel like we're here again because I don't know how to look away from garbage. Because I really do feel like we're here talking about this shit again because of my last video talking about this shit the first time. And sure, it's just kind of fun to say that, and I don't know that it was necessarily the case, but in my head canon, that's hilarious. So yes, it is my fault. Hi, it's Kendall here. If you're new around here, welcome. If you're not new around here, and a year and a half ago, I made a video about PASSIONFLIX's first forays into Black romance. For the uninitiated, PASSIONFLIX is this streaming service devoted to making incredibly low budget romance film adaptations of really bad romance novels. I've talked about them ad nauseum on the channel, but Blackness was a new component to their works. But I talked about the first movie they had done in what was supposedly supposed to be a series called The GRANGER Brothers. That movie was called A Brother's Honor, and that was made in 2019, and it had been years since they had talked about it, so I just assumed they never made the rest of the series and wouldn't, because I guess presumably it wasn't popular enough. It has come to my attention that the series that I thought they had given up on, they haven't, and they made a second movie years later called A Man's Promise. And again, as usual, whenever there's a sequel to some shit movie that no one's heard of, I think it's my fault that they are making another one. My power, my influence. No. And so for better or worse, I went on there, watched the movie, had to watch my own video because I didn't remember shit about this film. It is incredibly, incredibly forgettable, but convoluted. So I'm going to link the video that I did on the first half of it somewhere around here. You can watch it at 1.5, 2 speed. That's what I did on my own video to figure out what was happening, what was the tea, remind you if you needed it. But today we're talking about their second installment and how bad it is, because it's awful. And honestly, they could have just gave up on this series. I don't know, I had mixed feelings about it before because I wanted to know where a lot of these arcs were going, because they were definitely introducing a lot of arcs. But I had kind of resounded myself to the fact that they're not going to finish it. So now I'm here and I'm like, well, maybe you should have did that. Hello everyone, this is Admiral Kennie, and today's video is sponsored by Warby Parker. I get so many compliments on these glasses, and everyone always asks where I got them from. I got them from Warby Parker because they make stylish and innovative and cool looking glasses for affordable prices. I really love their glasses, but I also really like their sunglasses as well. I keep a pair in my car, actually. Those I bought before they were a sponsor on the channel. So they also provide vision care and exams at your local store. And I always bring up the eye exam I got from Warby Parker because I have never been in and out so quickly. With every pair sold, they distribute a pair for someone in need. And as of last year, they had distributed 15 million pairs through their Buy a Pair, Give a Pair program. Their glasses are super affordable, starting at $95, and include prescription lenses with anti-reflective, scratch-resistant coating, which is really great for me because if I didn't have this anti-reflection, it would shine way too much in my glasses when I'm on camera, which is very annoying. Also, if you have vision benefits, rather vision insurance or FSA, you can use that on prescription glasses, contacts, and exams. And if you would like to try on some glasses but don't want to go in store, feel free to try their virtual try-on option so that you can see what it would look like on your face. They also have an at-home quiz if you don't even know where to start, like what glasses would you even want to look for. But if you'd really prefer to try them all in person, feel free to click on the link below or the QR code somewhere around my head, and you can try 5 pairs of Warby Parker glasses at home for free. That's 5 pairs to try on for free, with free shipping included. Big thanks again to Warby Parker for sponsoring today's video. Now let's get on to the debauchery. Now, The Grangers, if you recall, is about 3 brothers. There's Jace, the oldest, Caden, the middle child, and then Dalton, the youngest. Each of which are incredibly successful, and they all come together taking over their family's aeronautics company when their grandfather dies of a heart attack, and his dying wish is that they save the company, take over it, and get their dad out of jail. Their dad had gone to prison for murdering their mother, but they think it was a bogus charge and he didn't actually do that. And then at some point, there's love, because it's PASSIONFLIX. So people do be fucking abruptly, as per usual. Again, I made a video on the first part, link down below. That was about the oldest brother, Jace, and him falling in love with a woman named Shayna. It was a mess. But all of these movies are a mess. So it was a mess in black. Speaking of which, I've been listening to In Black again for my like second gen K-pop bitches. Sexy Beat, really underrated EP.
좀더 다가와도 돼. 더 세게 안아도 돼, baby girl.
But the last movie ended abruptly with a bunch of drama, some betrayal from a guy that worked at the company, and it ended with Jace getting kidnapped and saved, and Shayna being pregnant and him proposing to her. So that's how that movie ended. This movie follows the middle child, Caden, who in the first movie, there was some allusion to him having a relationship with this girl named Shiloh. Now, in the last movie, they just called her like his best friend. So I assume she was a childhood friend. But according to this movie, there was a whole bunch of other shit that happened not even when they were kids, that happened 4 years ago. And I think it would have been a good idea to tell us that, but they're telling us now. So, and we're going to go into his love story with that. There's also espionage. There's like 4 million different PIs for some reason. Everybody, like whenever they need to progress a story along, they're like, let's get a private investigator. Lazy writing. Thank you, PASSIONFLIX. But luckily, this movie is a cool 87 minutes, so it's not going to take that long to talk about all the crap, even though it is very convoluted and stupid like the first movie. So without further ado, let's talk about A Man's Promise 2024, The Grangers, Part 2. If you don't remember Caden, because you wouldn't, because I didn't remember Caden. Caden is the middle child, and his thing was that he played saxophone and was very successful in a band, in like a jazz band, doing that before he had to come back to the company when it was going under in the last movie. And if you recall, he had a very complicated, sassy relationship with his bass player, one of the people in the band, which they referenced very briefly in the first movie when he said she was off key.
Egged that woman on. She was practically stripping for you.
Is that why you were off key?
Y'all remember that? That was very funny. I was like, ooh. Now, that complicated relationship will be referenced a bit more in this, so I'll just let you know right now that the girl, the bass player, her name was Rita, and they used to f around, and then he was like, you taking this too seriously, and he had to let her go, which sounds like retaliation, which is illegal. If you have the ability to fire her, you shouldn't have been f***ing her. But I digress. This is a romance. Don't look too closely. So though you need to know about Rita, not a whole lot, because this movie is going to be about him and the girl that he loved, Shiloh. Like at the beginning of this movie, they're not on good terms. And it's kind of hard to understand why. In the first movie, we were under the impression that they weren't on good terms because they just fell off when his father went to jail for murder, and her parents told her to stay away from them because they're obviously dangerous and unkempt if getting murder charges. So he thought that she had just turned her back on him. But apparently there's more to the story that we are told very abruptly with expository dialogue as everything happens in PASSIONFLIX. So that's the like foundation of this relationship going into this movie. They don't like each other. They got bad blood, and it's her dad's fault, supposedly. But her dad has passed away, and so now we have to consider like, what will they choose to do now that they can make their own choices? Okay, so speaking of Shiloh, the first scene with her is her at dinner with her brother Cedric. And she got boho braids, which, ooh, I want some boho braids so bad. But unfortunately, the reason I haven't gotten them yet is because I have too much faith in myself, and I feel like I can do it myself. I probably shouldn't feel that way because I don't think I can do it myself. But my pride won't let me go to somebody else until I do it myself. But she has boho braids, and she's there talking to her brother, Cedric. Now, I didn't remember this. It's a really throwaway thing in the first movie, but Cedric is a doctor. Not only is he a doctor, he's the doctor that was looking over the Granger's granddad when he had his heart attack and was there when he died. This will be vaguely relevant. And Shiloh is really excited because she is going to be taking the next step in her career. She's going to be opening a wine bar. But at the company later, Shiloh and Cedric's mom comes to the Granger company. Now, the Granger company don't like the mom either because she did nothing to stop the father from tearing them away from the Granger brothers, because Cedric was also friends with them as well. So he didn't want either of them hanging out with him. But she has come there to apologize for all the problems that her deceased husband had put them through. This is where she starts to drop a lot of expository dialogue about, quote, 4 years ago. okay? Because again, as we knew it, they were childhood friends and stopped being friends 15 years ago when the mama was murdered and the daddy went to jail. So we're like, what are you talking about 4 years ago? So apparently they had a whole relationship, Caden and Shiloh, and they were engaged. They were looking to get married. Her father, Shiloh's father, found out, forbade her from going. Shiloh and Caden ended up breaking up because he found pictures of her on the beach with another man. So mom is here like, that was not a real photo. Those were altered by her deceased father so that you wouldn't marry her. She didn't leave you in Vegas where they were supposed to get married. She was actually in the hospital fighting for her life. Her father had found out about your engagement plans and they argued. She ran out into the street and got hit by a car. Was in the hospital fighting for her life and she lost the baby. That was a lot of information. This is like 5 minutes into the movie. And I'm like, this series is very much so just sitting there going, who? Like all the time for me. And I got at it, hit it real bad. So maybe that's just me, but I'm just sitting there like, who are we talking about? That's what happened. So now with this new understanding that she didn't cheat on him, that they were torn apart by her dead, deceased, no longer with us, passed on father. He's like, I want to start things over again because I was under the impression that she just didn't want me and cheated on me. So he ends up finding out where her new wine store is opening up and he gives her a visit where he's like, I found out everything. I found out what your daddy did. I found out about the baby. I want to start over. And she's like,
No, you hurt me so much. You had no faith in me. I had so much faith in you. No.
But this is a romance movie. So her consent is not a factor in anything that happens. So he said, I ain't listening to your bullshit. We gonna be together. I love you. I'm gonna prove to you that I'm the nigga that you need to be with. I'm giving you a man's promise, which is the title of the movie. Now, though this movie is about Caden mostly, we do end up having several B plots, a lot of B plots actually. One of which is Jace and Shayna being engaged and possibly getting married. It's really stupid, so I'm not going to waste too much time on it. But that's what happens. They're engaged. She's expecting a baby in the spring. And there's little cute moments where he has to talk to her father and get his approval of their engagement, marriage, whatever they end up doing. But Shayna is important because, again, in the last movie, she was a PI type person. And her sister, Jules, is also a PI type person, ex-cop. And her father is also an ex-cop. So there's a whole family of investigators, right? Which is important when things start going awry. In jail is Shepard, the father that is in jail for the murder of the mama, and they don't believe that he actually murdered her. And while using one of the computers, he sees an incredibly large text, someone threatening him to make sure that his sons don't try to reopen his case and prove his innocence. Because of this, he said, let me get my lawyer because obviously somebody is trying to bother my boys and bother me. So he gets his lawyer, who he's f***ing, by the way. It adds nothing to the story. There's no reason to do this. Maybe it's important in the future movies, but they should not be. 10 out of 10 would not recommend. But he's like, lawyer lady whom I am fucking, please hire some PI investigators to look after my boys without them knowing. Okay, so Dalton, we haven't talked about him a whole lot. He's a weirdo as well as everyone else in this movie. But if you recall in the last movie, he had a brief encounter with a mysterious woman that he met at a bar who didn't want him. And he's never met a woman that don't want him. And that just will not do. In this movie, he has decided to hire a PI, because that's what everyone does for some reason, to find her. Little does he know, but we as the audience do, that the woman that he's trying to find is actually Shayna's sister, Jules. But the more he goes into trying to find her, the more he thinks of it as an affront to him that she's hard to find, this challenge or whatever, how dare you? Which, if this were not a movie, and even that it is a movie, does not ignore the fact that that's fucking weird and creepy. You met one time at a bar, she said, no, I'm not interested, and you hired a private investigator. You are a psycho. You are crazy and you are weird. Back to Shiloh. She's getting ready for her opening, and Caden is sending her flowers and doing the whole baby please type thing. Well, not even baby please. It's get over it. We're meant to be together. Get over it right now. Like I said, there's several B plots in this movie. And the only one that I actually like is about Shayna and Jules's father. He ends up dating a woman who was in the first movie. I do not remember whether or not I mentioned it at all because it was kind of a throwaway storyline, but I actually like it here because it's actually the only part of this movie that I think is actually very cute. He's dating a woman named Mona who is blind. She hasn't always been blind. She was in an accident of some sort that resulted in her losing her sight. This is the first woman he's found himself able to love since his wife died of cancer a long time ago. It's really nice like seeing him love again. I think that's very cute. And there's a lot of like him saying like, I want to be there for you. I want to experience things with you and I'll be your eyes if you need me. And it's very, very cute. And I'm like, oh, all the feelings, all the emotions. He's like, I'm a gentleman. I will wait for you. If we travel somewhere, we can have different rooms. I just want to be with you. It's very, very cute. And she seems to be a little apprehensive, not because she doesn't love him and care about him, but she has a lot of fears about leaving her comfort zone since she's created a very like cocooned type life around her ailment. So it's resulted in her not feeling comfortable to really explore and go places because it's out of her comfort zone. Whereas he's saying like, no, I want us to still experience these things together and I will help you. And I think it's very cute. Time for Shiloh's opening of her wine bar. Apparently she had no say in who can come because there was hella people there that theoretically she wouldn't want to be there, one of which was Granger. But there's also a few other people as well. Her mother, who she has a strained relationship with, some family called the Greens who seem to be prominent and they come up periodically. The parents of the Greens family once worked at Granger Aeronautics but were fired for mysterious reasons. That was many years ago, and theoretically they've gotten over it because they have money and prestige outside of the Granger company. But their son, Ivan, comes to the event. He's running for mayor and he seems to have like a cold energy towards Caden. What's going on there? And then there's these messy white people named the Owens who Shiloh overhears talking about how the Granger's dad is in jail for murdering their mama. And they heard on the block that it was because she was cheating on him and it was a crime of passion. At first I thought Shiloh was overhearing this, but they really go to her and say, you used to be friends with them. You think he killed her?
Shiloh, you knew the Grangers. Do you believe Shepard could kill his wife?
You think he the type of to kill her? You think he a murderer? And she says, well, I was young during the trial. I don't know, but I've always heard that it was the other way around, that the father was having an affair. But interesting that you seem to have that information. Reminder to clarify things. In the first movie, we found out information that the deceased mom was cheating on the daddy. And the daddy took the fall for it because he didn't want everybody to know that about her. So we'll learn more about specifics about that in this movie. Talk about going out bad. You going to a jail for a dead person that cheated on you? But he said, I didn't want to ruin my kid's life. Didn't want them to feel differently about their mom. But lo and behold, here they are 35 and they have a lot of things to find out about. After the party, Caden sticks around because he doesn't know what boundaries are. And he asks Shiloh if she has a history with Ivan Green, so the mayor, the guy trying to run for mayor. And she says, no, why do you think so? And he was like, because he had a big attitude, so I figured that he had some feelings for you because that's what makes sense for me. And she said, no, not that it's any of your business, but no, I don't have anything with him. This continues on with him going, baby, please forgive me for the wrongs that I did. I didn't know, but not in a pleading way, in a like, you will forgive me. Stop all this moping around that you're doing. Get over it. You and your silly emotions. Like, come on. I'll give you your time. So he leaves out of the place after like encroaching on her physical boundaries. And he immediately almost gets ran over by a car. But he's saved mysteriously by some real cute dark-skinned dude named Stryker. Stryker. And Shiloh, now faced with the very possible reality that he could have died, is like, oh no. And she starts like making out with him in the... Personally, as a watcher and a conspiracy theorist, I was like, did he orchestrate that? Because she ended up fucking him that night. She's like, oh yeah, I was trying to hold my little grudges that are very reasonable. We got R&B music to play and genitalias to bump, which they do. And the R&B music ain't bad. And they do it all over, in the shower, in the bed, against the wall. Good for y'all. Back to dad in prison, the lawyer whom he is f***ing. She tells him that Caden was nearly ran over, but the PI that she had tracking him was protecting him. Then back with the Grangers, Shayna and Shiloh, if I remember correctly, that's everybody. Shayna was like, do you think someone was trying to hurt you? I mean, considering everything that happened with Jace just a few months ago, it does seem like y'all got some enemies. He's like, I don't think so. Dalton then goes into how there's been some suspicious activity at the office with some girl named Brandy. Now, the reason I had to look down, one is because there's so many names, but two, we never see Brandy. PASSIONFLIX don't do B-roll. they just put niggas in front of you and they talk a lot. Me! He's like, Brandy would come up into my office after hours so much that I was starting to get suspicious, so I had some security people put cameras in my office, and she's like just looking around a lot and taking pictures. I don't like that. So they're like, okay, let's look into that. Let's consider all options, whatever. Jace is like, after everything with me, and now he could have possibly been targeted in an accident type thing. I want to hire Shayna's sister, Jules, who is also a PI, if you remember, to look into everything. Speaking of Jules, who runs a PI firm, Dalton is really excited because he found information about the mysterious woman from the bar. His PI is like, oh, well, it wasn't that hard to find her, especially because I have to know people in my business. The girl you're looking for is a PI as well. But now that he's found her, he's really excited to, quote, teach her a lesson, which sounds like murder, yeah? Which sounds like violence, but okay, cool. Like, weird, but it's supposed to be funny because it's a movie, but he definitely needs to be on somebody's list. Brandy, the woman that we've never met, never seen, only knew that she was doing something suspicious. Well, she just wound up, again, off screen, dead. Parent Sue of side. She left a note to her parents and how much she loved her sister, which is confusing to Dalton because he knows for some reason that she didn't have a sister. I don't know why you know that much of her business, considering she just worked there. Back to Jules and Dalton. He's found her, so he goes into her office. She's been recast, by the way. It was very confusing because they look nothing alike. So I was like, is this the sister? Yes, it's Shayna's sister. And again, somehow, instead of this being a action news at 11 story of murder and obsession, he's like, found you. He's like, now that I found you, you got to find me, but I'm gonna make it easy for you. This is where we're going to dinner tonight. And I'm like, ugh, nothing is scarier than the romantic genre, like at all. Y'all are frightening. Back to Shiloh and her brother Cedric. After the car incident with Caden, he doesn't seem to be a fan of the Grangers, which he was kind of neutral about prior to this, or at least seemed to be neutral about them prior to this. He's like, he staged a car thing to get pussy from you, which I know sounds crazy, but no less crazier than anything else that happens in this movie. And again, I too thought about it. If we're gonna do dumb shit, do it. But she's like, have you been hanging out with the Greens? Because I saw you talking to them at my wine party, and I've never known you to be particularly close to them. They don't like the Grangers, so what's up with that? And then he just leaves, not at all suspiciously. He's like, and goes. Jules goes to meet up with Dalton at the place that he wanted to meet up, but she gets real dressed up, get her titties to her throat, and she's like, I'm just here to let you know that I'm not interested. You should just forget you found me and leave me alone. And he's like, you came all the way down here, got dressed up, put your makeup on, did your hair, put your titties in your throat to say that? And she's like, yes, and stop looking for me. And he's like, okay, I'll stop looking for you. And then she leaves. Later, Jules comes over to help Jace and Shayna look into the guy who may have tried to kill Caden, right? Does he have any enemies? Yada, yada. There's a few people that may have an issue with the Grangers at large. The Greens, apparently the parents used to work for the company, but the reason why they got fired was actually because the husband was cheating with the dead mama. And then he was fired when they found out. Sounds like a lawsuit somewhere, but okay. The night of the car thing, they were actually on a cruise, and there's evidence of them being off on the cruise, so at least they didn't physically do it. Shiloh brings up about the Owens talking about how the mom was having an affair. So that means that there was more people than they're aware of that knew she was f***ing other dudes. And then Caden brings up Rita, the bandmate that we saw for 3 seconds who was off key in the first movie. He says that she still got a problem with me because we used to f*** and then I didn't want to f*** her no more. She got real possessive, and then I had my manager Grover fire her. Again, that also sounds like something suable there. But anyway, so they're going to look into various people, including Rita, including the Greens, everybody to see what's going on. Now, of the brothers, the only person that doesn't know about the affair supposedly is Dalton. So they sit him down and tell him about mom cheating on dad. And he's like, I already knew that. I caught her f***ing another dude before, and she came in my room and said, don't tell nobody. And they were like, wow, you caught her with Mr. Green? And he says, no. I caught her with somebody else. She was f***ing two niggas outside of her marriage. And the man she was married with after she died went to jail for her. Kind of pussy you got. We're back to Shayna's dad and Mona in New York. This is, again, a throwaway thing, but it's very wholesome and very cute. They went to shows and he like described things for her and yada, yada, yada. And they have their separate rooms and he says, I love you, which apparently he's been doing a lot, but she's always felt a little uncomfortable reciprocating it. So later in the night, she comes to him and she's like, I just want to tell you, I love you. And I never thought I would say that because like, I didn't think that was possible for me. And then they kiss and then they make love and it was very cute. I was like, oh. Shiloh and Kaden go away to Vegas, running away together like they were supposed to do all those years ago. And while there, Grover, Kaden's manager, goes up to Shiloh and is like, hey, I need to show you a surprise. And he takes her to this rented out restaurant where Kaden is playing the saxophone and then he proposes to her and she says yes. And apparently they elope in Vegas off screen again. They just don't want to spend any budget. And I get it because ain't nobody watching this shit but me. Back home, and this is when Dalton realizes that the woman that he's been stalking for the last few months via PI is actually his sister-in-law, essentially. He's making it sound like it's a him problem. Like, oh no, I got to deal with this. But like, you the weird one. I'm concerned for her. Like she's stuck with your ass in some degree or another for the rest of her life because her sister is about to marry this weirdo and you're his brother. He's really annoyed and like, I don't want to even look at her because he got rejected and he leaves out and she's like, whatever. She's like, I'm a PI and I'm here for PI reasons. So did you know that Kaden, your manager, he has reasons to have it out for you? And he's like, what are you talking about? Yeah, I knew he wasn't like thrilled when I had to pull back on music to take care of the company, but he understood that. And she's like, he has gambling debts. A lot of them. I would have gave him the money. Why would he try to kill me? She was like, I guess you don't know the $1 million life insurance policy that he has out on you. I'm no expert. I don't know how most insurance works, honestly, but I'm pretty sure you can't just sign up a random person for an insurance policy. I'm pretty sure you can't just sign up some guy you know for an insurance policy, especially a life insurance policy. Don't you have to be married or like related in some way? You can't just be like, yeah, this dude I know, take a hit out on him for $1 million. You know what I mean? But after time, Jewel is able to confirm that the suspicions he had around Rita don't fit, but there's evidence that Grover had rented a car for that area, the same type of car that had nearly run him over. They also find out that he was embezzling from him to pay his gambling debts. Embezzle? Girl, embezzle. Not your manager, the guy that you trust, being the one to try to take you out. Kaden goes to Grover's office and he confronts him. He's like, you take a hit out on me, essentially. You do a life insurance policy on me. You got gambling debt. I know you've been embezzling to pay for your gambling. He's like, what are you doing? But eventually he's like, well, I had to do what I had to do. He essentially confesses, right? And Kaden's like, well, I'm sure the police want to hear this because I recorded it. And he was like, that don't matter, bitch. We live in a 2-party consent state. He was like, good thing I bought the police. And here comes the police who come in and take Grover away, and that's it. They don't fight. They don't even really yell that much. They get a little impassioned. That's it. Which is crazy because I ain't never seen a movie end so anticlimactically, I don't think ever. At least in the first movie, was getting kidnapped and shot and like things were happening. It was broad daylight. It wasn't even dark outside. He came in to his office and said, you know you be embezzling, right? He's like, yeah, I do be embezzling. And then they took his ass off calmly. He didn't punch nobody. Ain't shit happened. I was like, this could have been a letter. You didn't have to film any of this. God. The movie ends with Shiloh's brother, Cedric, in a dark alley, and a bitch comes out dressed in a Sith cloak looking like evil Kermit. I know what you did today, granddaddy. You killed him. He would have survived that heart attack. And if you don't want people to know, make sure they don't reopen the case on the Granger dude who's in jail. Make sure nobody tries to find his innocence. And that's the end of the movie. Completely a waste of time. It was awful and I hated it. But again, as usual, I don't know how to let shit go. I don't know if curiosity killed the cat, but it's definitely taken some nice days away from me. There's so many things that I know that I shouldn't know just because I'm curious, and I really need to stop. I found out where musk comes from. This is a completely unrelated thing. Musk, like the base of perfumes, actually comes from a gland just above the dick of a deer. It used to come from that. And that vanilla originally used to come from beaver blood. FDA approved too. I say all that to say, I wish I didn't want to know things, but unfortunately here we are. So you're getting this video as well. Unfortunately, I'll probably follow up on the third movie too if we ever end up doing it. But if you like this video, feel free to like this video, comment below. What are movies that you think I should talk about, especially in the new year? Oh, Christmas! Send me shitty Christmas movie recommendations. I love garbage Christmas. I saw one where a woman falls in love with a snowman. I gotta watch it. Sounds asinine, sounds dumb as hell. I want it. But yes, feel free to like this video, comment down below, follow me on Instagram or Blue Sky, because Twitter and Elon Musk eat my ass. And everything is just really nice over there. It's so kind and everyone talks about art. I remember when I had hobbies. It's great. So follow me on there and I will see you guys next time. Bye.